The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, denounced that the far-right wing keeps their plans to attack the national electric grid with the aim of influencing the July 28th elections. In Brazil, the former head for intelligence service during the president of Jair Bolsonaro, Alexandre Ramagen, testifies about alleged illegal spying on high-ranking politicians and other personalities. André Chassain is elected as the candidate representing the left wing for the presidency of the parliament after intense negotiations of the left-wing coalition in the New Popular Front. Hello, welcome to From the South, from the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba. My name is Pablo Micheliche. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the presidential candidate of the Great Patriotic Poll, Nicolás Maduro, denounced that the far-right wing keeps their plans to attack the national electric grid with the aim of influencing the July 28 elections. During a large rally held in the city of Barquisimeto in the state of Lara, Maduro condemned that the far-right, along with the U.S. allies, are willing to harm the Venezuelan people in order to take office at any cost. In this regard, the presidential candidate of the Great Patriotic Poll thanked the people for supporting him in the defense of the national sovereignty against the coup plans against the country. And we go live now to our special envoy, Yunus Soner, in Caracas. Yunus, hello, welcome to From the South. What is the latest information ahead of the July 28th presidential election in Venezuela?
Good afternoon, Pablo, from here, Caracas, Venezuela, and good afternoon to all our viewers on teleSUR English. The campaign is continuing. Yesterday, on Wednesday, the president and candidate for re-election, Nicolás Maduro, has held a huge meeting in the Estadio Monumental Simón Bolívar, which is a baseball stadium, a huge one here in Caracas, with the working class representatives from the Bolivarian Socialist Trade Union. Here, the President proposed to introduce a new law, a special law against the blockade for the working class. That includes, among other topics, the construction of 3 million houses for the working class in the next years, in addition to the 5 million that have been constructed by the state in the recent years. It includes also the introduction of a new digital bank that provides easier access to credit for the working class and the amplification of a digital health family system. In addition to that, the president also traveled yesterday in the evening to the state of Lara, where he held another rally in addition to the hundreds of rallies he has been doing throughout the country as well. Today, he is expected to meet the representatives of small business owners here in Caracas, and we expect him to make here additional new proposals regarding the economic situation and future of these sector of society once he gets re-elected, if he gets the vote, of course. On the oppositional side, there are also rallies and activities, but one is noteworthy especially. The candidate of the extreme right, Edmundo González, has invited representatives of the Partido Popular from Spain, an extreme right-wing party, to watch over the elections of July 28. Now, this has caused some criticism in the government here in Venezuela. William Castillo, who is the vice minister responsible for policies against the blockade, called this invitation outside of law, or let's say illegal, because Castillo stated only the National Election Council has the authority to invite international watchers to attend the election process. So this is going to be another hotly debated topic here today. We expect both sides, government candidate Nicolás Maduro, as well opposition candidates, to hold more activities and rallies throughout the day, and we will continue accompanying them throughout the day when they held their rallies or press conferences. This is for the time being the situation here in Caracas. Generally speaking, everything is advancing calmly. There are already signs of election posters and campaigns on the streets. We see a lot of posters on the streets, a lot of publicity. We saw more from Nicolas Maduro, but also some opposition candidates have put up their posters calling the voters to vote for them.
Thank you, Yunus, for these latest updates on the Venezuelan panorama before the elections. Likewise, the presidential candidate of the patriotic poll affirmed that his government will continue working to recover schools and hospitals in the country to promote the well-being of the Venezuelan people.
And they are betting that there will be a hecatomb, a tragedy, that something will happen, that they will attack the electrical system and that something serious will happen or any other hecatomb to see if they can avoid what is already written in the books and sacred pacts of heaven, which is the irreversible victory of Nicolas Maduro Moros and the Venezuelan people on July 28. And they are betting that there will be a hecatomb, a tragedy, that's
In this same context, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, before the mobilization of the people of Carora in the state of Lara, reaffirmed that he is not subject to any foreign power, neither to internal nor external powers, stressing that he only obeys the sovereign of the people. The dignitary specified that he is a facilitator of the popular conscience and declared his desire for Venezuela to continue being a free country. He stressed that there are many things to be done for the future. Amid questions of the current Colombian government policy of total peace, a report presented on Wednesday revealed that armed groups have greatly expanded during the presidency of Ivan Duque. In this sense, the Peace and Reconciliation Foundation presented a report on the balance and challenges of the Petro government's total peace policy for the period of 2022-2024. Precisely, the statement points out that although the groups opposed to the current government allege that the armed groups have expanded as a result of the ceasefire that have been implemented, in reality their greatest growth occurred between 2028 and 2022 during Duque's presidency.
In all this framework of misinformation that has been circulating recently, there is a tendency to say that it is thanks to the ceasefires or even to the total peace policy that there is an increase both in the number of armed groups and in the figures of violence. And what we find is that this is not true, although there are many challenges, and even challenges related to the effectiveness of the ceasefires in providing humanitarian aid. What we find is that we have a cycle of violence in which the growth of armed groups starts in 2018, reaches a peak between 2021 and 2022, but effectively the total peace has not contributed to disarmament or de-escalation, or even to stopping the growth of several of these groups, including the National Liberation Army.
Native communities grouped in the Interethnic Association for the Development of the Peruvian Rainforests, as well as autonomous territorial governments, declared themselves in a permanent state of emergency due to the government's indolence after the murder of Mariano Isacama Feliciano, leader of the Cacataibo people. Isacama Feliciano was found dead on Sunday following his disappearance on the night of June 21st after reporting threats against him. Necropsy shows that 35-year-old native leader died of the firearm wound. Declared that 35 Aboriginal leaders have already been assassinated for defending the Amazon, and the changes are currently needed to stop the crimes and threats against indigenous defenders. Besides, justice has not been achieved for the victims, and the perpetrator of the crime remain unpunished. The president of Argentina, Javier Milei, received on Wednesday his Uruguayan counterpart, Luis Lacalle Pou, at the Casa Rosada, seat of the government in Buenos Aires. The meeting had an open agenda, executive sources informed La Nación. The meeting happened under a good climate, although there was not official communique about the meeting. The office of President Milei only published a photograph of both presidents in the social network X without details about the topics discussed. In Brazil, the head of intelligence service during Jair Bolsonaro's presidency, Alexandre Ramagem, appeared before police on Wednesday to testify as part of an investigation into alleged illegal spying on senior political figures and other personalities. Investigators suspect that during the term of office of the former far-right president, a criminal organization was formed within the Brazilian intelligence agency to monitor important political figures, judges of the Federal Supreme Court, and even journalists. However, the former intelligence chief defended his innocence in a publication last week on the social network X. He criticized the investigation, which he considered was aimed at bringing to the press superficial conclusions and conjectures. Also in Brazil, the government authorized on Wednesday the dispatch of national force agents following the worsening of the conflict between the Guarani Kaiowá ethnic group and rural landowners in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul. The Minister of Justice and Public Security, Ricardo Lewandowski, said that it will be destined for the border region and indigenous village located in the southern region of the state of Mato Grosso do Sul. He also emphasized that it's aimed at the preservation of public order and the integrity of people and patrimony. This decision comes after an intensification of conflict between indigenous peoples seeking to reconquer their ancestral lands and landowners who claim to be the legal owners and who respond violently. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Brazil, several tons of fish have died in one of Sao Paulo state's main rivers after an alleged illegal dumping of industrial waste from sugar and ethanol plant, according to environmental authorities. Sao Paulo's prosecutor's office declared in a press release that a preliminary analysis estimates that between 10 and 20 tons of fish died in the Piracicaba River. The initial investigation points to an irregular discharge of wastewater from the Estiva plant in São José, in the community of Rio de Pará. It enriched a stream that flows into the Piracicaba River. The situation has caused concern among local fishermen who depend on this activity for their livelihood. We move on to South Korea. Authorities say on Thursday that about 100 homes have been flooded across the country due to heavy rains. In this regard, while officials have confirmed no deaths so far, according to the latest report, about 560 people have to be evacuated in the center of the country due to the flooding of the possibility of landslides. Meanwhile, local authorities issued a heavy rain warning in Seoul and suspended access to highways and 29 rivers for safety reasons, as farmers also expressed concerns about the impact of the heavy rains in the harvest.
The water is receding. The area was flooded because the nearby stream overflowed. The pumping station could not pump out the water, so the place was flooded, but now it is receding.
We change topic. On Wednesday, André Chessin was elected as the candidate representing the left wing for the presidency of the parliament after intense negotiations of the left-wing coalition in the New Popular Front in order to choose a common candidate. Chessin declared to local media that he will be faithful to the values of the four groups that form the New Popular Front, which won the June 30 legislative elections and the July 7 runoff election. Chessin, deputy since 2002, represents France Insoumise, the Socialist Party, the Ecologists, and the French Communist Party, and claimed to have the collective legitimacy to preside over the assembly. The UNRWA denounced that Israeli genocidal forces have destroyed 70% of schools in Gaza Strip. In this regard, UNRWA Commissioner General Philip Lazzarini noted in social platform X that these have become usual incidents, and at least 8 schools have been hit in the last 10 days, including 6 UNRWA schools. Lazzarini added that the war was deprived Gazan children of their childhood and education, as schools must never be used for military or combat purpose by any of the conflict sides. The commissioner further denounced the blatant and constant disregard for international humanitarian law by the Israeli forces, expressing that all the rules of war have been broken in Gaza and that losing our common humanity must not become the new norms, ending his statement ensuring that the ceasefire is needed. At least 292 wounded Gazans died in Palestine following the closure of the Rafah crossing in the southern Gaza Strip by the Israeli army. According to the Gaza press office, among the dead are people who were seriously wounded and waiting for treatment in hospitals outside Gaza, but died while waiting for the crossing to open. Meanwhile, more than 3,500 sick and wounded people have been denied passage since Israel took over the crossing on May 7th. On the other hand, World Health Organization denounced that in addition to these arbitrary actions, the government of Israel also has stranded more than 80 trucks coming from Egypt with food and medical supplies for the people of Gaza. Also in Palestine, Israeli shellings claimed the life of at least 81 Gazans in the Strip in the last 24 hours. On Thursday, the occupation army struck the Al-Balad city and Buresh refugee camp, leaving 5 dead and several injured. Currently, a genocidal shelling of a residential department in Nuseirat camp brought about 7 wounded, including children and women, who were transferred to Al-Wada hospital. Health authorities denounced that in the last hours, the Israeli regime committed 4 massacres against entire families, either inside residential homes or in evacuation centers linked to the United Nations. And in a new provocation against the Palestinian population, Israel's right-wing extremist National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in East Jerusalem on Thursday, escorted by the police. In this way, accompanied by several policemen, Gvir entered the third holiest site in Islam, where he called for no ceasefire agreement to be reached and for Israel's genocidal aggression in Gaza to continue. It is worth noting that Ben-Gvir, since becoming minister in 2022, has broken into the Al-Aqsa Mosque holy site 5 times, which is seen as a provocation by the Muslim and Palestinian communities. Precisely during his speech, he called on the government to maintain its military incursion in Gaza despite the reaction of the international community and sector of the nations.
I pray and I make effort so that the Prime Minister has the energy to not give in, and that he goes all the way by reinforcing military pressure, stopping their fuel, so that we win.
The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas rejected on Wednesday the claims made in report by the Human Rights Watch organization related to the actions of October 7, 2023. In a statement, Hamas called on the organization to withdraw the report and issue an apology as a result for its bias and neglect of the pain endured by the Palestinian people at the hands of the occupation. Hamas stated that the Human Rights Watch brushes off the over 120,000 killed in Palestine to date by Israel and accused it of failing to mention the mass destruction of the infrastructure. Iran and Saudi Arabia advocate threatening their bilateral relations. On Wednesday, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman congratulated the newly president-elect of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, on a phone conversation. Both expressed their satisfaction with the diplomatic progress between Riyadh and Tehran. In this regard, Pezeshkian stated that strengthening this between the two nations will be the priority in his new term of office. Iran and Saudi Arabia, two Middle Eastern great powers, restored relations in March 2023 under the auspices of China, so they ended 7 years of diplomatic rupture. And we have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome to From the South. Foreign Minister of Russia Sergei Lavrov granted that Moscow is ready to hold negotiations talks on Ukraine and on security in Europe. On a press briefing held shortly after a meeting with the member of the Security Council, Lavrov assured that he hopes that at some point a treaty on European security will be reached, and in this context the Ukrainian crisis will be solved. The foreign minister further stressed the need to stop the delivery of arms to Ukraine and to seek a solution that would compel to be aware of the realities on the ground and in public life. According to Lavrov, the West chose to boost the so-called peace plan of the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, which is a pronounced form of ultimatum.
There has been talk of such a second briefing. Not only Switzerland was mentioned, but also other countries that could become a platform for this second round of the conference. But talking about what they'll do, they all in one way or another formulated an absolutely one-sided approach, absolutely unacceptable to us and to many others sincerely interested in peace.
In a southern province of China, a fire that broke out on Wednesday night local time left 16 people dead. The cause of the fire, which was completely extinguished early Thursday morning, was an accident caused by construction works that were being carried out in the area. Local fire and rescue teams dispatched 72 vehicles and 284 personnel to extinguish the flames and carry out rescue works. Moreover, the Ministry of Emergency Management and the National Fire Rescue Bureau sent a task force to the scene and announced the recruitment of experts from all over the country to participate in the investigation of the incident. Japan is hosting a summit Thursday with leaders from more than a dozen Pacific Island nations seeking to deepen cooperation and increase support for a rule-based, free and open Indo-Pacific amid China's growing influence in the region. The Pacific Island Leader Meeting, or PALM, launched under Japanese initiative in 1997, has become Japan's key diplomatic tool to deter China's security and economic influence in the region by strengthening its ties with the Pacific Island Forum members, stressing its willingness to stand by them and maintaining unity. In his opening remark, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said he hoped to elevate Japan's ties with the Pacific Island to a higher stage and renew its commitment to work together towards the future. And we move on to sports. With just over a week to go until the opening of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, the different delegations begin to arrive as their respective buildings and hang their national emblems on the site. After the inauguration of the Paris Olympic Village on Thursday, as the athletes arrive, the building will hold a total of 14,000 people, which is the maximum capacity for the delegations competing for the Olympic glory. Paris 2024 will commence on July 26, and for the first time in history, the opening ceremony will not be held inside a stadium. It will be in the Seine River instead. For 17 days, the French capital will watch as the world athletes compete in 45 Olympic sports. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, my name is Pablo Michelicio. Thank you for watching.